Hello tanks and tankettes, and welcome to Supporter Spotlight number 28. Now, I've managed to get completely out of sequence what with all of the faffing around with the computer, and then of course there was Tankfest not long before that, and the bug I caught coming back from Tankfest, and just the last couple of weeks seem to have been completely disrupted, but hopefully we're getting back to normal now. So we're kicking off with a newcomer. This is Katia, and she is in the Excelsior, which is of course the tier 5 premium heavy tank that the Brits get. Now, the Excelsior isn't completely terrible, but it's let down by its gun. It's got the same gun as the T14, which is in fact the same gun that you can find on the M3 Lee, and of course the Grant as well. Not a bad gun at tier 4. At tier 5, however, it feels a bit more lacking. And it's not just the fact that it doesn't have great penetration. And now, these tanks, at least the T14 and the Excelsior, do have limited matchmaking, but even with the lowish penetration, it's the terrible gun handling. They're not particularly accurate. They don't have good dispersion properties at all. And that alone, like the mobility of the Excelsior is pretty decent. The armor is pretty decent. If it just had a better gun, then it would actually be quite a nice limited matchmaking tier 5 heavy premium. But as it is, the gun is just enough to put me off. Even when you get in people's faces, the gun can often be completely unreliable. So anyway, that's the first bit of damage done. Now, I don't actually have scores for this. I think her client crashed, or she left the battle just before the end, or I don't know if the computer crashed, but the replay file, it's one of those times when you upload it to WotReplays and it will not give you the results. And because I don't have mods sorted out, I don't have a damage counter on the screen, so I've estimated the damage that she does at the end of this, but I haven't counted it up precisely. So on to the next target. The enemy team was not doing particularly well in this one. This is just kind of limbering up, really, this game. It's just one of the ones she's sent me, so I thought, you know what, we'll pick out a new supporter for the start of this video. And it gives me a chance to talk about the Excelsior a little bit as well, because it's not one you see replays of very often. So the enemy team's just about done at this point. I mean, there's only a couple of machines left, and, well, unless some of them are sat at the base, I mean, their artillery might be, she's not going to get much of a chance to actually do much more. Except, yes, okay, that has to be the Su-85, and of course the Bishop is there as well. So that's one ping of the turret. Like I said, the armor isn't actually that bad. It's very flat, but if you angle it, it'll do okay. But the problem is, you have to unangle it in order to fire the gun. It's a bit like the mouse in that way. And of course, the rate of fire is, well, it's decent. It's decent enough that if you're angling between shots, it's going to massively slow down the rate at which you can fire the gun. Now at this point, this is where that horrible, like, it's like 0.43 accuracy or something like that. It's not good. It's over 0.4. And of course the dispersion means that the gun is just completely failing her at this point, and that's going to be her doom, because, well, the Su-85 can easily just punch through the front of the turret. That first bounce was really just because it was angled. When it's angled, it actually can be reasonably bouncy. I mean, this is good matchmaking for this machine. But, I mean, look at the minimap. You know, there was only a couple of tanks left. The T-34 is about to go down. There is a Bishop left alive, but he's going to go down as well to the M4. So, even though she's died, and she's done, I think, maybe 1,000 damage, maybe a little bit under, if I'm tallying it correctly. It's around about that anyway. I mean, this wasn't a, you know, hugely, massively adrenaline-filled game, but it was a fairly respectable tier 5 heavy game, even so, doing about 1,000 damage. So the replay cut off just before the end. We didn't get to see the artillery actually die, but it was a win. Well, clearly it was a win. The Bishop's not going to hold them all off. And so that leads us on to our next tanks game. This is Tugboat 1964 in the Jagdpanther, and he's packing the 105mm gun. Now, sometimes you'll see people still using the 88mm. Obviously, you know, if you're grinding through it when it's stock, you can I mean, that's one reason why you'd use the long 88, but some people choose to keep using the long 88 on this machine because, if I remember correctly, it gets a better rate of fire and the penetration level is about the same because it's, I think, and I could be completely horrendously embarrassingly wrong here, I think it's the same 105mm gun that you find on the VK4502A rather than the 105mm, the top 105mm that you find on the Tiger II, as in the thing he's just firing at. But maybe it is the gun you find on the top gun on the Tiger II. I'm not actually sure. I'd have to look that up. It's been a while since I've played the Jagdpanther myself. Either way, it's got something like 320 average damage, so it's not bad for a tier 7 tank destroyer. It's got a good rate of fire. It's reasonably mobile because it's on a Panther hull, of course. And, well, the armor's not great, but you will occasionally get bounces off the gun mantlet area. So we're sitting in a fairly standard spot here on Redshire for people spawning in the north, or at least if you're in a tank destroyer, this is a reasonably good location to come and try and get shots on enemies on the other side. And as it turns out, well, they had a couple of his own tanks go forwards, and well, the enemy team have lost a couple themselves in the process, but clearly they have come out on top. However, that IS-6 is rather out in the open at the moment, so that's giving tugboats a nice opportunity to rack up some damage. You'll notice, unlike the previous replay, this one's got a damage counter. Well, this is a 914 replay, so this one's actually been sat in the inbox for a while. I don't get through nearly as many of these as I'd like, which is why I'm actually, the next supporter spotlight won't actually be a supporter spotlight at all. I'm going to do another supporter week, which I did one of those earlier in the year, where I just had a whole week of Patreon supporter submitted replays, and I was not sure how it was going to go. I was thinking maybe people, oh, there we go, nice kill. That's a very important kill, actually, taking out the IS-6. Even a low health IS-6 could still be dangerous. So, yeah. But yeah, I thought maybe it would be unpopular because people would, you know, think it was displacing too many regular replays or whatever. But no, people seem to like it, and you know, the quality of games that get sent to me is generally reasonably good. In fact, I mean, the first game we had, the Excelsior game, was just a reasonably standard Excelsior game, or a tier 5 heavy game, but this one's going to be rather more tense, and you can see this team is not doing so well. Oh, that shot was cheeky. There's absolutely no denying it. I mean, sometimes you take those shots and you just think that's never going to work, and somehow, I don't know, it just caught the back of the SU or whatever. And anyway, that's useful though. That's one more kill, because the enemy team is like, they look like they've just about got the upper hand, but it's still actually quite close. It's quite close indeed, and that FCM that was in the north there quite sensibly used his speed to withdraw to the hill to actually get to somewhere a bit safer, where there were some allies. Anyway, there's a bunch of enemies up around the cap. We can see the VKA and the T-29 are a little further east at this point. There's also a rather unfortunate Churchill 7, and I say unfortunate because this is awful matchmaking for a Churchill 7. It just does not have the firepower or the armor or the speed to cope with higher tiers. It's one of those ones that really is a victim of the current matchmaking, and just has been since the beginning, really. So, down to 3 tanks, the FCM tugboat here, and the Leopard Scout, who is using the autocannon, which I think has got, it's like 95 pen with the AP, and obviously more if you're using the APCR, so it's not a bad gun. Now at this point, tugboat turns away, and I was thinking, is he running? No, he's actually, of course, going to take a look-see, and I think he's assumed that all 3 of these heavies, the Churchill, the VK and the T-29, would be heading towards the cap, over the open. Unfortunately, he has assumed wrong, because that's the T-29 who just pinged a shot off his track. Now, he's taking the slower route here. He's actually reversing, and he takes a hit in the engine, and there's the VK, who had actually used speed to get up to the hill and now decides to charge down tugboat. This is bad. The VK is also firing APCR, which, when you're top tiering that thing, is pretty unnecessary. However, the second shot actually bounces off the gun, or the gun mantlet. And so that would have been a killing shot, but fortunately, Tugboat has survived. So yeah, that was rather unnecessary. Maybe AP wouldn't have bounced, it would have normalised and penetrated. We'll never know. But anyway, the Leopards came in, killed the VK. Now he's killed that Rhymatool, who was very low health, but unfortunately he goes down himself in the process to the M41. The Churchill, we know, is more or less a one-shot. The Bulldog just realises too late, surely that shot went in. I mean, he just disappeared, but surely that went in. Now, if the Bulldog has got the autoloader, that could be a big problem, because he can kill Tugboat in, I think, 2 shots, maybe 3. Not entirely sure offhand what the alpha of that gun is. And, well, if he got in a position to clip the FCM as well, although the FCM has got a little bit more health to work with. Anyway, the T-29 has pushed up to that position on the hill, but the FCM is easily able to use his mobility to just whiz round and take shots into the hull of the T-29, rather than let the T-29 sit and be hull down. So the FCM has actually been playing pretty smart in this one, and the Leopard made some important kills as well. So although it looked like they were more or less kind of on the losing end of this for quite a lot of this game, it's actually come down to being super close. It's now just this Bulldog. Now at this point the Bulldog pushes his luck a little bit too far, and again, that's an incredibly cheeky shot to have landed, but of course it's you just take these shots because sometimes they do land. If the Bulldog had pulled back, he would have lived. This may have been a longer battle, and instead he pushed his luck a little too far, and Tugboat walked away with his ace tanker. Now he actually got the best damage and the best score in the game. The FCM did nearly as much. They had an ISU who, well, he got fed some kills early on. I don't know if you noticed the Jagdpanzer 4 going and sitting in front of an ISU 152, which is never a good idea. And I think there was something else. I think the E2 did as well. But yeah, overall, that was an incredibly tense, close game. And it was damn lucky that he bounced that VKA shot on his gun mantlet. Lastly, we come to Shipmaster Crook, I think, is his current account name. We've actually had an Atago replay from him previously when I think his username was Crooked Star, which is just much easier for me to remember. But now he's Shipmaster Crook instead, and I don't know what prompted that change. But anyway, this is from the recently concluded season of Ranked Battles, and if you're unfamiliar with warships, it's basically team battles. And what Warships does is it kind of alternates between having seasons of these ranked battles, and which are basically the matchmaker assembles 2 random teams of people, and you have to try and you advance through the ranks by getting wins, and the wins then mean that you get rewards like flags. And I think if you go to rank 1, you got a special reward ship, which was the USS Flint. It was basically an Atlanta that has smoke available, I believe. Now, I didn't have time to get very far with the ranked battles this time around. I only got to like rank 17 or 16 or something like that. So I didn't even get far enough to get the flag for this season of ranked battles. I think you have to get to rank 14 for the commemorative flag. But I did play some. I mostly played the Molotov, and it was, kind of fun, but I had to be in the right mood to do it. And the thing with the ranked battles is it's like because it's just a group of random teammates, you never know how it's going to go. The other seasons that they do, that they interspersed with the ranked seasons, are team battles, and those are where you can. That's what we were doing in Poland, basically, organised teams of players that can communicate with each other, which is obviously a very different thing than being in with a group of strangers. Anyway, that's enough about what ranked battles are. So he started off with a very nice salvo against that broadside Fuso, 3 citadels along with a bunch of hits, and basically taken quite a lot of his health. This entire game, and yeah, the replay bugged out a bit. Like, his ship is kind of weirdly transparent. I don't know why. But this entire game is going to be about when RNG favours you. I mean, we had a bit of RNG favouring Tugboat in that last game, and Shipmaster is going to... I have to be very careful about how I say that, don't I? Shipmaster, yes. He is going to experience the joys of playing a battleship when RNG decides to grace you with its favours, because there's yet another Citadel. How many do you think he's going to get by the end of this? Place your bets. So that's over 50,000 damage already. Those Citadels really do stack up. And you'll actually see, I mean, he's quite cautious in his firing here. He doesn't take... there's a bit later on when he's firing at a Cleveland as well. He doesn't take shots against ships that have like vanished. He always waits to make sure, oh, there's another 2 Citadels. He always makes sure to see that he's actually got a shot lined up at a ship that he knows the direction of, basically. And sometimes you do want to maybe take some guesswork shots, but in a battleship, because your reload is so long, it does actually pay to be cautious. It pays to shoot at those things that you know where they are and what direction they're heading in. And in this case, in this game, it really is paying dividends. And there's another Citadel. Good grief. And he actually, in the chat, he's kind of giving a running commentary about, you know, oh my god, I can't believe how lucky I'm getting, essentially. So he's already racked up 90,000 damage. We're only just over 5 minutes into this one. This is ridiculously good fortune. Now, as with everything, and the same goes for World of Tanks as well, add another Citadel. Just come on now, Shipmaster. You're just showing off. Come on now. High caliber already. Good grief. As with anything, as with World of Tanks, and as with this game, like... you can get lucky like this, but you have to be shooting well to begin with. Because, and this is, here we go, he's waiting for this ship to reappear before he fires. You have to be firing well and aiming well to begin with to, you know, get the best results, essentially. You have to work within the RNG that's there. So yes, it's a factor. Yes, sometimes it'll screw you. Other times like this, you will get... exceptionally lucky and score a lot of Citadel hits. But even if he hadn't scored the Citadels, he's actually aiming well enough that he still would have hit and he still would have done damage. It just wouldn't have been quite so much damage quite so quickly because of those Citadels. But the enemy battleships, both of those Fuzos, made it easy for him because they were both basically sailing broadside. And that is the worst thing you can do in a battleship. It's absolutely asking to be punished. And he was sailing broadside-ish himself, but he's been a little more conscious of his angle, I think. But it's also, I think just the fact he's been able to shave off so much health so quickly has probably panicked these enemy battleship players. They've just suddenly been thrown into a mode of, oh my god, I have to run away and try and survive because all my health has suddenly disappeared. So this was, you know, with just the sheer amount of damage he's done, this was very much in their favour from early on. I mean, they've only killed 2 enemy ships and they've actually lost 2 ships themselves, including their carrier. And they're actually down on points at the moment, but just looking at this, looking at the state of the surviving enemy ships, how much damage he's done, I don't think there's much doubt that they're going to win this one. They'd have to try really hard to throw it at this point. I mean, those enemy ships, you still have to get the kills. It's like World of Tanks. A low health enemy is still, you know, going to be dangerous in that they can still fire back at you. But actually in warships, I would say it's a little bit easier in terms of having low health enemies running around because there's less places to hide. You can't use terrain. You can't like go hull down in World of Warships. There's a lot of open water, and if you want to fire back at somebody, it means usually exposing yourself. Not always. Not every ship has to. There are a fair few cruisers, and even some of the battleships, like if you're using, on some maps, not all maps, but if you're using islands, then you can basically, provided somebody else is doing the spotting for you, fire over islands and be completely safe. I mean, that is the entire play style of the Atlanta and the Flint, of course. But they're not the only ones that can do it. So they've just given the enemy team a complete thrashing, and a lot of that has been Shipmaster getting all of those citadels. Now, there's only destroyers left, so if you guessed 8, because of course citadels do not exist on destroyers, then well done, you get an internet cookie. So it's just this Farragut who, well, there we go, he was on a sliver of health, and what is that? A Nicholas that's left. And the Nicholas has still got a bit of health, but right, the noose is closing. And at this point, if I was him, I'd just stop firing and run away, because, you know, Shipmaster's team are going to win on points at this stage. Like, even though they've only got one cap circle, they are just so much closer to having the 1,000 points required for victory. And there's no way a lone Nicholas is going to take down a full health Fuso and a full health New Mexico. And, well, the two cruisers are not quite so healthy, I don't think, but yeah, it's not going to happen. So, Shipmaster's closing in on this guy. He might land a hit or two. He's actually got AP loaded still. I personally would have loaded HE at this stage. You land hits with HE, you can get... with Battleship HE, you can do quite a lot of damage to destroyers. You can get criticals and all sorts. But still, even the AP overpens, like for every hit, it's more or less a guaranteed 1,000 damage. So that was still another 3k on the tally at the end there. So you'll notice from the score screens, by the way, that interesting looking skin, that's his own skin. He actually wanted me to show this off, so we're going to have a little shot of that in the port. But anyway, top of his team, probably by far the most damage done on his team, and he got the high caliber award there as well. And it was actually there we go, damage done. Look at those Fusos, 50,000 damage to one, 41,000 to the other. I was actually a little disappointed he didn't get any more citadels on the Bogue, because the Bogue is not well armored, and it's just RNG that he didn't, in fact. So 300,000 credits made. He actually resupplied some consumables with doubloons there, so he would have lost a bit more if he hadn't. But even so, for just a regular game, that was, well, a ranked game, that was pretty good. So there we go, that's his skin. It's not what I'd use, but considering he's made it himself, it's not awful, it's not bad at all. So there we go. Supporter Spotlight number 28, done and dusted. Like I said, we're going to have a supporter week next time. It'll be 5 or 6 days just straight through of Patreon supporter replays. And I will also just take a moment to flag that I have put a link to my second channel now on the banner of the main page of my main channel. So if you are interested in finding that at all, I've just put up my thoughts on the Netflix series Stranger Things. So you can go to the page and click there and see my video and see what I think of it, and hopefully subscribe as well. So if you enjoyed this video, you can leave any comments below, you can hit the like button, you can sub if you aren't already, and as always, stay tuned for more.